Hi, folks. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here. It has been a little while since we've done a live event here from Texas Pictures World Headquarters, and glad to be home and able to do this from here. Last time we tried to do a live from a hotel room. Wow, we had some pretty substantial issues with data, but we're much better now. I believe. At least I hope so. So I am. It's right there. Why are we not up? Maybe it's me. I don't know. So we just finished the premiere of episode 291. The story from Mississippi. The parents are from a town called Kiln, Mississippi. I don't know if Mandy or or Joseph. Yeah, a nickname. All right, okay, I got it now. I don't know if Mandy or Cully are with us in the groove or not. But if you are, please speak up and let us know you're here. Kimberly says much love to Mandy and Gage's family. Yeah, yeah. So the father goes by Cully. Forward Drive. Okay, I believe I don't remember seeing that name before. No, I see Super May. Super May, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being a sponsor with our channel. It really does mean a lot. I feel like I didn't I feel like I didn't get the members only version published on time today, but uh, it 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 happens. We're gonna make some changes to the type of benefits that we have for members. We're gonna try to come up with some new things as well as uh, change a couple of things because our channel is just getting too crowded with duplicated programs. But we will sort that out. Hello, April and Lisa, and of course, yes, there's a quite loud telephone conversation going on right over there, but that's okay. Yes, Brad, Carla, we do have coffee mugs, the self cleaning type, as long as you drink black coffee. They have the Texas Pictures logo on the front. And on the back, it says stories that matter, which is that's what we're all about. So, hello, hello, Lisa and Supa. What is? Remember, just like for the premiere, we need thumbs up. That helps us in how we perform with YouTube. So, really appreciate that. So, for starters, why don't we talk about what stood out to any of you regarding this story? This is a story we shot just. I appreciate hearing that, Carla. Uh, I made a special trip to deliver it. You sell lifesavers on your website? No, no, we don't. Uh, we Amazon has them, and that's where we get them from. And it's no small trick, because there is no. Now and then you can find them in store, but only God, if you go to Walgreens or something like that, they'll have bags, lifesaver bags with individually wrapped servings of lifesavers. But getting the roll, it's gotten to be a real challenge. April would love a coffee cup. Okay, April, there is this came off of our store. It's ridiculously expensive. It's I want to say it's $17 for one coffee cup, but it's special in that it's self cleaning. That I've been drinking coffee out of this for months without ever washing it. Lisa says, yes, a lot of the fentanyl is coming through the mail. Butter rum. I bet they do have the butter rum bread. So, yes, coming through the mail. Actually, I was working on one of the stories. I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago now, maybe, and I was editing, and I needed a graphic that I could put into the story to represent websites. Uh, a graphic to represent websites. So I searched for Xanax, and it was crazy the amount of websites that and like one was in India, and you could order Xanax in high quantity delivered right to your door, and I seriously doubt those are legitimate Xanax. But I was shocked at how easy it was to find that that kind of resource that fast. It just took nothing. I wasn't searching the dark web. I just searched for order Xanax online, and that was it. And there it was. I had it. Kimberly says she watched Carlos watch Rain Story last week. That's awesome. April says, you told me, Glenn, self cleaning. I absolutely need that. Carla said, it makes her coffee delicious. Yeah. That is, it's self cleaning. As long as you're drinking black coffee, you never, you never, never have to wash it. I'm pretty sure. Uh, So I think that's probably why it's such an expensive mug, is because you never have to wash it. And that's my theory anyway. April says, I really appreciate you, and we need to get together about the babies, poor little babies, all these senseless deaths, 14 and under, are going so fast. The death toll, I pray every day. Yes, April, it's just it's a profoundly tragic thing, and so we have to figure out how best to do that. The challenge is these babies, they're all over the country, and over time, we're all over the country, but we're not all over the country all the time. So the ideal would be to have a way to bring these storytellers all together somewhere where we can interview everyone at once, like one of our storytelling summits work. Mandy is here. Welcome, Mandy. Thank you for joining us. Mandy says it was so hard to watch myself talk, but you guys edited that beautifully. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mandy. I'm glad you're happy with it. Forward Drive says Mandy is a strong person to choose to go to church and support groups rather than sulk in her pain alone shows a lot of inner strength. I, yes, it does. It shows inner strength. It also shows a sensitivity, a kind of awareness of the importance of moving forward. It is the best thing she can do to honor her loved one. The very best thing she can do. The very best thing to preserve her loved one's memory, her legacy, or his memory, his legacy. It is the very best thing any parent can do to draw the most value they can out of that terrible, terrible loss. Support groups are so critical. Unhoused people don't know that fentanyl is laced with other drugs in it. Yeah, I've heard that too. Usually, fentanyl is the drug that's doing the lacing, like fentanyl in what looks like a Xanax, but it's not really laced because the pills, they're counterfeit to begin with. So it isn't. Lacing implies that some illicit manufacturer is starting out with a legitimate Xanax and adding something, or a legitimate Percocet and adding something, and that's not the case at all. They are using pill presses and creating counterfeit pills that have none of the ingredients that a genuine Percocet or Xanax or Adderall or whatever would have. Instead, it has some sort of filler, a base, and fentanyl instead. Okay, I'm behind again, folks. So give me a minute. Delay. Absolutely, she's forward. Mandy, I am glad you have support. I do too. That's such a big deal to have support. There we are. Found the sweet spot on the microphone, I think. Yeah, okay. Maybe it's not as big a deal to you, but all right. Actually, I have the locations, and there's several course together. We will get it figured out. They asked me to figure out what could work best for you and them. Thank you. Well, the easiest thing that works for us is for everyone to come to Houston. We have a location. We have a couple of locations we can use, but whatever works for them. If there's a way to sort it out, winter's coming, and so we'd like to say on the southern part of the country, uh, going back to California would be fine, or anything along the southern border, or maybe one state up from it. But anyway, we're very flexible. So Kimberly Smith, yes, drugs in the drugs. Yeah, it's crazy. Mandy says, on my worst days, I feel God wrap his arms around me. Yeah, it's an awesome thing how that can work. Brad said, you hear about babies dying of fentanyl. I don't understand that. And the way it happens, at least in the stories we have. I want to say we have three stories. One is told by a grandmother, and the other two it's told by mothers. For the grandmother, her the victim's parents are in prison, and in all of the cases that we have, it boils down to more than anything being carelessness, that a user leaves some of their substance that they're abusing sitting out somewhere, and the child, just in the course of being a toddler, being a crawling, screaming, diaper loading toddler, explores like they do, and they find it. Or not finding it, but literally just running their hand through it on the carpet or the tabletop or the sofa or whatever in the course of getting to whatever flashy, jingly little thing that they're trying to get to next while they have their fun. And then, as kids do, they put their hand in their mouth and they die. It's terrible. What have I missed? The biggest challenge of doing these live events is keeping track of what I've missed through this relatively small window here where I see the comments. Yes, Brad. You know, it's hard for me to see mother going through this and relapse on fentanyl. Yes, Kimberly, I'm sure it is. Carla says, the night Rain passed away, she Googled what does a generic Xanax look like. I remember that, Carla. She was aware. She knew about fentanyl and was trying to protect herself. Hello, Risk. Thank you for being here. South America. Where did that go? Oh my gosh. South American, you can get benzodiazepines over the counter. Didn't know that. Hadn't heard that. April says, Carly, yes, that absolutely broke my heart. I'm so sorry. Sending you big hugs. She's with you every day, watching over you, wants you to be okay. I know it's so hard. That is one storyteller to another. Gage's stepdad, really, truly hard for him to think about it. Yeah. 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 Cully, cool guy. April says, Glenn, also sometimes it's one parent or the other when the child is in the other parent's custody, unfortunately. Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure that is a thing as well. Carla says, thank you for watching her story, Kimberly. She was the greatest love of my life. Kimberly says, April, if a person giving her friend fentanyl isn't and not being get out of jail. I'm not sure what that means, Kimberly. April says one baby was at an Airbnb that was not cleaned properly. Yes, there's a lot of potential dangers out there. A lot of ways that it can make it into a child. Has a child doesn't have that same kind of filter. A toddler, there's that they become ambulatory. They become mobile. We'll just call it mobile. They become mobile. Their body gets ahead of their brain, that they don't have that those learned lessons about you don't you don't taste everything. Prayers for Mandy and Cully and the Mandy's younger boys. Uh, Lisa says, yes, Mandy, I'm so happy you and your family attended the event we had for our Angels in Wiggins. The Wiggins event. The Wiggins event was epic. All of the events that we've had, and I have an updated map. All of the events that we've had have been spectacular in their own right. But that event in Wiggins, Mississippi, it was wonderful because everything everything for me and my wife and everything for the storytellers except for Lisa was pretty much effortless. Now Lisa was running around like crazy the whole time. But for everybody else it was easy. And Lisa made it that way. We had the lobby of the hotel, which was set up with fentanyl related awareness displays and loved one displays and holy cow, so much donated food. It was wonderful. The community really came together to welcome us. And just right down the hall, maybe 15, 20 steps down the hall, was a meeting room that we were using to record the stories. Ideally convenient and out of the way enough that the noise made by the people in the lobby doesn't matter. And then 10 or 12 steps further down the hall was mine and Sherry's room. We never even had to leave the building. So that was ideal. Everything about it was ideal. But we don't need ideal to come to wherever you're at. But it just it deserves a lot of praise. It was really a well thought out, thoroughly planned event. Okay, let me get back to where we are. And forward drive, prayer for many, call late a minute. Yeah, okay, we got April says, you're welcome, Carla and Kimberly. That's not a friend to give someone fentanyl, especially after possibly being sober in jail. They will probably die from being sober and then using again. That's definitely a thing, April, that users, people who have detoxed from regular use because they're in custody or whatever reason, if they have detoxed and then go back to the dose that they were using before they got clean, they're not going to have that same level of tolerance in their system. And the dose that used to work for them could be lethal. Plus, there's that whole thing of no consistency in the dosing in illicit drugs, in counterfeit pills. There's no consistency. 3 pills, one could be fatal, one could be nothing, and one could be somewhere around what a user would want. It's insane. It was, Lisa says it was awesome, and truly, friendships the families have since the event is a blessing. April said, I loved how Lisa did everything. Yeah, that was awesome. That was great. Lisa did everything. She was on it like a rat on a Cheeto, like Oprah on a baked ham. Susie, I lost my son almost 4 years ago. He just turned 26. His name, Shad. Thank you for speaking on this. Thank you for sharing, Susie. Very sorry for your loss. I don't, I really don't remember seeing your name here before. What part of the country are you in? Yeah, okay, the food. There you are. No, no, April, I'm not criticizing anybody. Everybody's event, wherever it is, however it's organized, they always work out fantastic. And one of the main reasons they work out to be fantastic is because what happens where people wait in that waiting room or and in Wiggins, the hotel lobby, and wherever it is that they congregate, they get together. There is this bond that happens. It's amazing. The families meet each other, connect immediately, and they're laughing and crying. I have to stop the interview and go out to wherever they're at and tell them, "Sheesh." But it's really fantastic. Yes, Lisa, the amount of food was wow. And so Trista, oh, thank you, Susie. That is understandable, Mandy. Super May, thank you for bringing us these very important stories. Each and every one is a precious life, for sure. Absolutely. Uh, yeah, I saw that, Brad. I saw that. Yeah, I kind of passed through the corner of Oklahoma on my way home just a couple of days ago, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Yesterday was quite the long drive. So I am game to come to Oklahoma to do another lunch event. Kind of whenever. Ideally, when we're heading somewhere sort of that direction for other stuff. But we're game. And Brad, you can come here. You can. Rich says, kid in my local high school nearly died from fentanyl vape at school last week. That is a great time. That is a great time to remind that school that there are resources out there to get presentations in the school to help increase fentanyl awareness. There's organizations like Fentanyl Fathers. That is their entire mission is to be in every high school, in every middle school in the country, giving fentanyl awareness presentations to students. They are all over the country. A couple of months ago on TV, the one of the founders of Fentanyl Fathers was standing behind the President of the United States and was actually introduced by the President of the United States to speak during the signing of the Halt Fentanyl Act at the White House, which was pretty amazing event. I should have that picture right here queued up, ready to show, but I do not. But so if a school just endured something like that, the administrators are a little bit in panic mode and very receptive or more receptive to the idea of having an organization come in and give presentations about fentanyl awareness. It is a strike while the iron is hot. Or you can contact Fentanyl Fathers. I am on the board. You can contact Fentanyl Fathers and they will have someone contact your school administrators for you. Lisa says, haha, thank you. It really turned out amazing. I'm so thankful for all the angel families that attended and helped. April asks, Riz, do you have naloxone? And April is on it. Brenda's here. So, Risk, they think my son died from a fentanyl laced dab pen. Wow. I just got a new case of Narcan and test strips. If anybody needs some, just message me. That's right. Test strips and Narcan, which is naloxone, which is one specific brand of naloxone. This looks like a product. Okay. If you look at the box, it says naloxone HCI nasal spray 4 milligrams. And 4 milligrams is the same dose in a ton of other versions of naloxone as well. So if you just move this way a little bit, and if you look right there, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different boxes. One of them is Narcan, the one on the bottom. The rest of them do not say Narcan, but they do say naloxone, just like the Narcan box does. So it's important to remember that Narcan is a brand, the drug that reverses opioid overdoses or can reverse an opioid overdose if administered quickly enough, is naloxone. And it's in all of these, plus tons of others that are on the market out there. And it's all the same dose, pretty much. 5 of those are 4 milligram doses, and 1 is an 8 milligram dose. But this is a point that it's important to me to keep hammering home, because naloxone is what matters. And I could just picture 2 guys at a party, both of them kind of impaired, and they have a box that says naloxone on it, but it does not say Narcan. And they're arguing about whether or not that will help their friend who's laying on the floor dying. And they're arguing because all they've ever heard is people say Narcan rather than naloxone. So it's vitally important to say naloxone at least some of the time. All right. So that was pretty exciting. I'm glad to have gotten to share that with you folks yet again. So let me see where I'm at here. The waiting is my favorite part too. Glenn meeting everyone. I just got a new case of, okay, we did that. What do you think about the peace agreement in Gaza? What do I think about the peace agreement in Gaza? I think Risk is right. It's better than nothing. I don't I don't find any real fault in it, but I am not particularly informed about it either. I know it happened. I know it is an overwhelming kind of spectacular accomplishment to make it happen. And it will be a far greater overwhelming accomplishment to make it last. That naloxone demo picture was in my story. Yeah, it happens. Now and then it happens. Uh, Susie says Shad had an Narcan kit. Sadly, the girl who was with him at the time had no clue what was happening the whole time he was attempting to breathe. She said he seemed like he was snoring and she couldn't wake him. Yes. That snoring sound is is also called the death rattles. Common slang term, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. But the key kind of symptoms to an overdose are pinpoint pinpoint pupils, uh, unresponsive, slow, shallow breathing, lips, fingernails turning blue, snoring sound. The unresponsive thing, the first thing you do is try to wake the victim up, and you do that with a sternal rub, your knuckles, rub it up and down, like like that on their sternum. Do it hard, make it hurt, get them to respond. There's also a spot here you can poke that just irritates the daylights out of people, and so uh, if there's no response, call 911 right away, or start administering naloxone while you're hollering at the people that are around you to call 911. All right, let me catch up with where I'm at here. Drab, are you still speaking in DC? Drab? Drab? Is that some weird way of saying Brad? That's a good one, Brenda. You know, one lady like Narcan spray and not the one comes from syringe of Narcan. Susie, she left him and his roommate found him 2 days later, still on the couch. That's terrible. April says, Brad, that's awesome. What's going on in Gaza? Peace. Finally, Susie, I am so sorry. Peace, finally, in the Middle East. Maybe, but peace for now is a pretty big deal too. And and that we all should be able to embrace because it's peace. Brenda says, today I am my area code clean. 40453. I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm sorry you're having a hard time, Carla. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Bree says I was on a lengthy call with my mother tonight, but wanted to join the live. Thank you, Brianna, for being here. It's always great to see you here. I'm seeing some. I'm seeing some. Big John. Let me ask you a question. How do we stop the drugs when most of them are being let in by the government? And I know this because I served in Afghanistan for 3 tours and most of the time protecting poppy fields. Here's the key thing. There is the problem really isn't the supply. The problem is the demand. If the demand went away, supply wouldn't matter even a little bit. That's that's a business thing. Drugs exist because there's money in it. Illicit drugs come into this country because there's customers here who will buy them. And that's the only reason. It's business. So going after the supply really doesn't make much sense. It should be part of the battle, but only part. Netflix did not put Blockbuster out of business by going after the studios that make the movies that they rent. Netflix put Blockbuster out of business by going after the customers, by offering them something better. It's just business. 405, that's one of the numbers I guessed, wasn't it, Brenda? It was. It was. 405, 4. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's recorded, so we can check later. Poppy fields exist because people buy opioids. So that's that's the thing. So hey, Big John says Kimberly. Christine says after my son experienced cannabis-induced psychosis, I became interested in other drug overdoses. Janelle, talking about Janelle Rodriguez and Buddha, presented at our school district. 4 parents attended. Where am I? I carry Narcan now. That's awesome. Janelle is very motivated, a force to be reckoned with for sure. She is accomplishing a lot of great things, and I'm sure she's saving lives. Her son Noah is one of the very first stories on our channel about fentanyl poisoning. Susie says we all have to come together in peace and love for all of mankind. Our children are our most precious gift from God. Yeah. Brad says I would love to take Carla to the Holy Land. Well, let's make it happen. Let's figure out how to get her there or get you and her there. Whatever. I understand, Carla. I'm sorry. It is important for other people to understand what the death rattle is. I'm sorry. I would hug you if I was anywhere close. You know, but there is no pain with that sound. Bree says, Kimberly Smith, so glad to hear I can be a support to you. Isn't that the level of support that happens in this in this chat, in the way that people connect with each other and work together to help each other and support each other and give each other a hard time. It's wonderful. It's really a beautiful thing. Riss says I'd avoid Israel right now. Well, planning the trip would take a while, and so that would develop things. Kimberly says, Brad, my therapist told me that cannabis is supposed to be relaxing. And Riss says, not for everyone. I was in love with pot, but not anymore. Yeah. There's a lot of myths and a lot of misconceptions about cannabis out there. And we're sorting through them. We don't we don't know. We don't we don't know how much is uh, nonsense. We do know that there's a type of cannabis user out there who watches some of the content on our channel and loses their minds about anything that is remotely critical about cannabis. And they post these messages that are full of anger and misspelled words and bad grammar. And they make 5 or 6 posts to make one point. If you go to any of our cannabis stories and scroll through the comments that are with them, you will find that there are a lot of comments in there that have misspelled words, a lot of comments in there that have just awkward, weird grammar, and a lot of comments in there where the commenter makes 4 or 5, 6 posts to really just make one point. Just go scroll through them sometime. They're really not making the point they think they're making. The thing that I'm learning about cannabis is the strength can vary a lot. The amount of THC and the way that the plant is being manipulated, genetically manipulated to produce more THC, and the way the edibles are made and other delivery methods, vapes and all of that is cannabis isn't what it was. It's not the Woodstock cannabis. It's not it's not the cannabis from the 80s or 90s. And it can be okay to like weed and still be critical of it. People do that with alcohol all the time. Which is another thing in the comments on the cannabis stuff that we'll often hear is, oh yeah, what about alcohol? Which is stupid. What what about alcohol? You never hear drinkers jump to the defense of alcohol, but you hear potheads do it all the time. Brenda says, Carlisle, not everyone will have the death rattle. Many are overcome with so much fentanyl, their brains shut down before the agonal breathing can happen. Yeah, that's true. Bree, it hurts me to see our young people on fentanyl and cannabis. For a drive, I'm getting out of here. See you on the next one. Cool. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Remember, thumbs up. Where am I, Big John? Carla, you have beautiful children. You do. You do. April says I was sure going to mention Rain absolutely did not suffer. She just went to sleep and didn't wake up. That is something consistent that I've heard over and over from parents, from medical examiners, from law enforcement, from doctors. They just drift off to sleep. Big John says yes, 100%. I hear you. How we can turn this around when most people know nothing about this and the government does not want to fix it. Mental health in the United States has to be understood, not turned away. For sure. That mental health is one of those issues that is difficult to address because people there's stigma, which is it kind of sounds like a bail, but mental health is a poorly understood thing that strikes me about mental health, about psychology, is that there's very few facts involved. It's all theory. And so even though a lot of theories are proven, a lot of them not so much. And a lot of things that were facts in the 1980s when I graduated college, a lot of the things that were presented to me as facts regarding psychology back then, they're not considered facts anymore. How is that legitimate? If you just change what's real. So, mental health is, it's one of those things that merits a lot more attention than it gets. But it's not happening. Another thing about mental health is there is an element of mental health that just comes from peer support. I don't mean like having peers that get around you and say, "Yeah, you're great," but that kind of support you get from good friends. That kind of support that makes you feel like, okay, I'm not alone. I think I can do this. People around me think I can do this. I can probably do this. That's the simple ultimate truth. That network, that support, that's one of the great things that come from churches. It's one of the great things that come from sports, being on a sports team and doing those social things, getting out there in the world. How can we turn this around? Most people know nothing about this in the government. Turning it around requires talking about it. It seems to me that increasing awareness, there's what we do at Texas Pictures. We do a lot of stories. a lot of stories. They're not all parent stories, but they are all increase awareness kind of stories. We've done some stories that address issues like the border. We did a hidden camera investigation kind of story going across the border into Mexico and buying what turned out to be a counterfeit pill from a pharmacy just across the border from Mission, Texas, and Mexico. So that kind of stuff, the things that just bring the darkness to the light, that's a big thing. Kimberly says, April, my team person, her name is Paige, and said cannabis doesn't. She doesn't think there's any consequences, and sometimes there's not any substantial consequence. Anything you smoke has health risks. Anything you administer by smoking has health risks. So, so I appreciate you being here. Forward one. Weed is very unknown. Susie says weed is very unknown in potency nowadays. Much different from years ago. Yeah, it's not. It's not Woodstock pot. And that potency issue. There's. I've even started seeing advertisements in my Facebook feed saying this is stronger stuff. This is promoting edibles, selling edibles as stronger, promoting the potency. But you can't make the manufacturer the villain with that. The manufacturer does that because that works with the consumers. Blaming the manufacturer is cursing the hammer for bending the nail. It's the consumers that drive the demand. Yeah, there's that word again, demand. What happened if you impaired on cannabis and alcohol behind the automobile? Well, impaired driving is impaired driving. It doesn't matter if it's from alcohol or cannabis or opioids or some sort of prescription drug. Impaired driving is impaired driving. Even if you have a prescription, there's a lot of prescriptions out there that have on the label do not operate heavy machinery. And holy cow, cars, heavy machinery. Impaired driving is impaired driving, regardless of the substance. I need to make a series on cannabis impaired, like cannabis impaired driving. Well, we've done some stuff on impaired driving, and we can always do more. We are good friends with the Houston Police Department. We've done a lot of work for them over the years, and most of that work has been with the impaired driving task force in Houston. Uh, Susie has been dry from spirits for 5 years plus. That's awesome, Susie. So I have to ask. That sounds a little free from spirits. Does that mean kind of like California sober? That's a phrase that I've learned from some of the people that I've interviewed and worked with. California sober. Brenda says, "Congrats on the 5 years of sobriety. I'm thankful I never liked spirits because the stuff is sold everywhere." Hmm. Susie says alcohol spirits the mind away. It certainly can. Certainly can. Brad says, remember the 5-year plan. And Kimberly says, I take my mental disorder seriously. That's vital. I think that probably everyone has some sort of mental disorder, not just some of us, but probably all of us. And maybe some of us developed masking skills when we were toddlers, but everyone I think has some sort of bias. Maybe that's the way to refer to it. Everyone has some sort of bias, some slant on how they interpret things around them based on life experience or trauma or whatever. I go through this with cannabis defenders often. They say, well, if this person has psychosis, it's because of a pre-existing condition. And my response to that is, who doesn't have a pre-existing condition? Who hasn't experienced some sort of trauma? Something. And how do you know if you have a pre-existing condition or not? The depth of the stupidity of that argument just baffles me. Okay, I'm catching up. Brad, I have talked to mom, which her son was on meth for 38 years. That's rough. April says, Kimberly, cannabis definitely affects people differently, and it's not for everyone, but I feel it has medicinal benefits for some people, not everyone. It also helped me stay away from harder drugs. And April, that's certainly valid. We spent a few days in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, with 3 families who have children who had brain tumors, cancer, that now appear to be cancer free because of the medicinal use of cannabis. And we're working on that story and hope to be bringing it to you very soon. Cannabis is probably helpful for cancer patients. Why? That's right, Kimberly. Some of the big arguments for cannabis with cancer patients is that it helps it helps them get their appetite back, which is saying gives them the munchies. But cannabis is a treatment for some cancers. Maybe, maybe there may be a lot more to it than just helping you feel hungry. Christine, we can agree that fentanyl and the poisonings from them are devastating. We tell our CIP stories. Some of us get accused of being bad parents, having crazy kids, deflections. Like, what about alcohol? Christine's right. that, especially that deflection. What about alcohol? And that deflection is always a stupid response because it isn't a response at all. It's a deflection. And Christine is right about the kind of harsh comments that sometimes happen on our cannabis induced psychosis stories that do not happen on our fentanyl stories. And the reason it is like that is because there's a lot of cannabis users out there who are quick to adamantly defend their drug of choice. In some cases, adamantly defend their addiction. But the beauty of all of that, of those leaping to the defense of cannabis types and those cannabis users who view themselves as experts just because they've been using a long time, like somehow that makes them an expert. I've been using a watch for a long time. Close to 60 years. But I'm no expert on watches. I've been eating fruit all my life. That doesn't make me a farmer. Yet, cannabis users sometimes, just because they're users, have made themselves into some sort of expert. It's it's funny. It shouldn't be funny. But here's the other thing about the ignorant kinds of comments that Christine's talking about that happen on on all the cannabis stories. There's always some ignorant, and the amount of hostile private messages and post comments that we've gotten on the Texas Pictures Facebook page is crazy. So what's funny about that is that it's predictable. But there is value in those ignorant comments because what it means is people are still watching it. People are seeing it, even the ones who just label it as being propaganda, label it as being uh, reefer madness. They still watch it, and by making a comment, good or bad, the comment improves the story's performance on YouTube and makes it more likely to reach more people. And aside from that, a lot of the comments that are from cannabis defenders, those comments really make a good case for cannabis being illegal because the comments are stupid. Stupid. Just flat stupid. The best argument for not legalizing cannabis is the arguments users give for making it legal because they're stupid. And don't believe me. Read the comments. Some of the comments can be very mean. But if you go beyond how mean they are and just Look at how they're structured, how the sentences are structured. Look at all the misspelled words. That's the kind of people you're arguing with. That's the kind of people who are arguing for legalization. And that's the kind of people who, most importantly, need to know about the potential dangers that exist with cannabis. All right, so I've had enough of that. Yeah, April says yes, cancer, seizures, and chronic pain, Kimberly. Christine, April says, Christine, there's ignorance all around. I'm sorry people aren't real with themselves, let alone others, and no respect. I appreciate all the stories. I have my medical card for THC and no CIP is real. That's reasonable. That's completely reasonable. There's there's all kinds of things that can trigger psychosis, and there's all kinds of substances that can help but can be harmful if abused. Cannabis is no different. Christine says, Glenn, you're on target about pre-existing mental health conditions. Thank you. Uh, yeah. How do you know? That is, there's so many times, I spend so much time reading the comments on our channel from people who are responding to something in a story, mostly wonderful, positive, great comments, but then not always. There's plenty of people who have deemed themselves as being experts on something just because they have experience with it. It's not how being an expert works, but seems to be how it works with cannabis users. And so the pre-existing medical condition, pre-existing mental health condition, those kinds of things you don't know until you know. A pre-existing mental health condition that hasn't surfaced, we all got one. I bet everybody has one. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Susie, we always try to keep the good memories alive for sure. Brad says, I live in Oklahoma City and it's so hot during the summer, I can't even imagine how hot it is in Houston. Brad, I don't think it's worse in Houston than in Oklahoma City when it comes to heat. We do not get snow though. So there's that. Brenda says, Brad, in 1981, my dad drove down to Houston to see if there's a city that he could raise his children in. Hint, he returned home and we promptly moved to Oklahoma. Well, I don't know. Houston is the third largest city in the country. Third or fourth. We kind of keep going back and forth with Chicago. So for a lot of people, it's okay. I campaigned for cannabis with unhoused people and fentanyl on being safe with it. Very good. That's wonderful, Kimberly. Brad, when my mom was alive, couldn't tell my mom what I was doing. April says, "That's funny, Glenn. I can't function without my medication. I'm so glad I can still spell correctly most of the time anyway. As long as autocorrect doesn't interfere, it helps me function, focus." I totally believe that. I'm not arguing that at all. But just really, April, take the time, pick out a couple of our cannabis stories and go through and just read the comments. We delete a lot of comments that are harsh. We delete comments that are harsh toward the storytellers, that are dangerously inaccurate, that are that involve really bad language. And that's about it, but that's three things and that's a lot. And so a lot of the worst cannabis related content gets deleted anyway. But just go read through some. Uh, See what kind of patterns jump out to you in the comments. Buttons does more for my mental health than any single person. All right. Can always count on buttons. Christine Glenn is always on target as long as he has his coffee. Yeah. I'd really love to have one cup. Yeah, I've been thinking that we might get some coffee cups made. Maybe. We'll see. We're at a weird kind of crossroads with Texas Pictures right now and sorting it out. But it'll be fine regardless. I love to see the other side too. I'm sorry, April. I've seen the other side too. When are you going to get hoodies with zippers besides the one you have? I'm gonna. I just got to make the time for it. It's terrible. I know. What's buttons? I'm betting buttons is a dog. April says I did read those ignorant comments on the cannabis induced psychosis. I think I have replied to several of them and got tired shaking my head. Yeah, that's the thing. Those ignorant cannabis comments. Some questions answer themselves. Those ignorant comments make a really strong point about why it needs to be regulated. Uh, there's so much bad information out there about cannabis right now. Back in the Woodstock days, there was still psychosis back then. There's documented cases of psychosis that go back to the 1800s in Europe, not here. I'm here too, but in Europe. So, see there, passing down. I know it. But really, I think it would be. I think you could all find some entertainment in just going to some of the cannabis stories. Don't have to watch the stories if it's not of interest to you. But if you just go to the cannabis stories and read some of the types of comments that they draw from people who think they know something, I think you'll find some real entertainment in it. Basset hounds, yes, basset hounds are very cool. All right, folks. So we have been here over 80 minutes, and so it is about time to wrap it up for today. We have a lot to get done tomorrow, and we have several stories near finished. So not sure what we're gonna do yet. Next, we really want to get. We have this cannabis and cancer story. Not as in cannabis being useful to help me get my appetite back. Cannabis as in a legitimate, measured dose kind of treatment that appears to have reversed brain tumors. But if you're only when when you when you use cannabis and call it medicinal, if you're smoking it, there's no measured dose there. So how can it be medicinal if you don't know how much medicine you're receiving? So there's that. And there's Brenda's wonderful message. Remember, what you take for granted, someone else is praying for. What you take for granted, someone else is praying for. That is a great thing to remind yourself all the time. Carla says I can't look at the comments. And you shouldn't. The vast majority of comments that are on Rain's story are spectacularly supportive, but if there's a chance they're going to bother you, just don't look at them. Drew Swan's story is another one of our most viewed stories, like Rain's story is. And Drew Swan's story, the storyteller is Greg Swan. And Greg is a larger than life kind of personality. And he doesn't read the comments at all. He never has. And there's some most of the comments are positive, but there's comments from people who call him a narcissist, and they say things like he needs to get over himself, and very harsh comments on Drew's story. April says, so true, Brenda. I love your comments. And before we go, Kimberly Smith has been doing amazing things in Memphis. I'm so grateful for her. Yes, for sure. Awesome job, Kimberly, with, I think, the extra E in Kimberly somewhere, right? Is that so? Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of a kick how Greg Swan deals with the comments on the story about Drew. He doesn't read them at all. Jack has read some of the comments and tells his father, and they get a laugh about it. But you know, on our permission slip, it says on our release form that all of the people we interview fill out. It says morons use YouTube too, and they do. And so by keeping that in mind, it's easy to process that. So, Italian Angel, look who's here. Hey, Glenn, there's another new drug like fentanyl making its debut in Philly. I'm going to get the name of it for you. It's bad, I'm being told. Yeah, between fentanyl, carfentanil, nitazines. Here's the thing, it works. We still buy it. We create the demand. We, the consumers, are the only reason it's here. The only reason it's in the country. The only reason it's killing people. If it wasn't a money source, no one would do it. If it wasn't a way to make money, it wouldn't be an issue. So that's going to be about it for the. I've been talking a while. I should know how. That is going to be about it for us this evening. We have been here almost an hour and a half, and it has been a wonderful time to spend time with you guys again. And I'll just keep talking while I stall, while I try to find the closing credits in there. So I always Italian Angel says, absolutely, I agree 100%. I'm going to assume that you're agreeing with me because that suits me to assume that. The real issue is demand. All right, folks. So I want to remind you as we wrap things up for tonight. April says, Glenn, must drug dealers say, if they don't buy it from me, they'll get it somewhere else. So unfortunate. Yeah, okay, I read that wrong. Most drug dealers will say, yeah, and they're right. That's 100% accurate. That the thing about a drug deal, if you picture, I should have some stock video that I could show while I point this thing out that is sort of an uncomfortable truth, kind of an elephant in the room thing. In a drug deal, if you picture a drug deal and there's these two guys, this really shady looking guy who's got his hands in his pockets and he's talking to some kind of not quite as shady looking of younger guy who's got a concert t-shirt on and he's carrying a backpack and they make an exchange where Backpack guy gives extra shady guy money, and extra shady guy gives the backpack guy some little envelope that's got a drug in it. That dealer is a criminal. So is the buyer. It is illegal to buy drugs illicitly. It is illegal to buy drugs without a prescription. It's illegal. Both sides of the transaction are criminals. Both sides are engaging in criminal acts. So, see what I mean? It's kind of an elephant in the room, isn't it? Kind of an inconvenient truth. Yeah. Thank you again, Glenn, and everyone. Hit the like button. Good night, everyone. When Glenn leaves, chat with you all again next time. Risks. How does that help? I don't know what you're asking. How does what help? Italian Angel says, "Hey April, how you doing? I miss these live chats because of work. I was determined tonight, and I'm glad you're here, Italian." April says, "That's crazy, Risk 603. I know what you're saying." Yeah, I see it, Risk. You're right, Glenn. That is all criminal, unfortunately. Risk says, "Why make it easy to use freely like these blue cities?" I don't think the political affiliation really matters that much. I think it's more a matter of, but it's not a matter of resources either. That's hooey. That is BS. Resources. Resources. Police departments are larger than ever. Crime has been on the decline steadily for the last 30 years. And for some reason, they don't have the resources, even though they're bigger than ever. No. But if they don't say they don't have the resources, they don't get budget increases. If they say, yeah, we're kind of well equipped now, then they don't get any new stuff. They don't get cool trucks or authorization for overtime. I missed your comment above about the blue cities. Is that what you're talking about? Risk. It does matter. You allow addicts to take over, you create more addicts. I don't think the conscious decision is to allow addicts to take over. The conscious decision is to approach the problem from a direction that isn't as effective. Good night, Carla. Big hugs from April and me too. Carla, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here. I really do. Hugs to you, April. And all right. So anyway, it is time to wrap it up because you guys keep me going on stuff and I just can't shut up. So we are gonna wrap it up now for serious. All right. So, but I want to thank you all for being here. Sincerely. I'm very grateful that you're here and that you engage in the chat in this weird live thing. It's cool. So anyway, I want to remind you all that it's always easy to get in touch with us. There is email. You can email me pretty much directly, info at texas-pictures.com. You can also find us on Facebook under my name, Glenn Muse, or under the company name Texas Pictures. And you can friend us there and then message me there. And you can also visit our website, texas-pictures.com, and find out information about things like how to share your story. You'll find a link to our merchandise store, which we are going to update sometime soon, really. And more information about us. You'll find our contact information, phone number, mailing address, all that good stuff. I see Italian Angel says Glenn Suboxone really works. Sadly, they make it hard to stay on the program. Explain next time, everyone here. Have a great night. Yes, Italian Angel. I had a long conversation with a former White House drug czar about that very thing, or about methadone. Same principle, though. Thank you very much, folks. Very grateful for you being here, and I wish you all a very good night.